This video I'm going to be going over basically a build update from my previous Ice Nova Frostbolts build that I made a week or two ago. I honestly consider this a completely different build from the one before. It is a little bit slower and has a little bit less damage, but it's 10 times tankier than before. We created this build to make it insanely tanky, have the ability to do the unique farming strat and T17s that Red Vials put out, as well as tank, basically any content in the game, simulacrums, Ubers, T17 farming, etc. The build revolves around the new Svalinn shield. This shield gives you lucky block as well as a trigger. And if you don't know what lucky block is, basically it takes your block chance. So say you have a 50% block chance and the first roll fails. It'll roll the roll again. And if the second one succeeds, then it'll take that second one and use that. So basically every time you get more block, it times it by, I don't know the exact math. It's like 1.5% or something, but you can get up to like 90% block with this, which was kind of ridiculous. And then it has a trigger built in, and we use that to trigger our Sigil of Power and Frost Shield. We have to manually cast our Assassin's Mark because this is only for elemental skills. This build is going to be completely high budget. It's definitely possible to do it on a lower budget. I would recommend having a Mage Blood though at minimum. The Shield, Ralakesh, and Badge of Brotherhood aren't too expensive themselves, but I would definitely consider having Mage Blood at minimum. If you want a PoB without a Mage Blood, I would probably recommend looking at somebody else's build. There are a couple of videos out for that, but this is not going to be one of them. We swapped over to using triple res flasks instead of the, what did we use before? Quartz and the silver and something else, evasion flask, I think, for 90 all res. We also have +2 on the chest here, and then we take the impossible escape to get another 3%, so we get 90% total. We are now using Ralakesh and Badge of the Brotherhood because we're stacking power charges, and because of that we have 10 power charges, and with Badge of the Brotherhood we get 10 frenzy charges. I have additional curse on mine. It's obviously not needed, but it allows you to not have to allocate Whispers of Doom, and you can allocate Infused for another power charge, and that obviously gives you another frenzy charge. And for the boots, I've got these double corrupted boots that I hit myself with horrible res, but it hit +1 max endurance charge and suppress on them. These are also not necessary for the build, but at minimum I would probably get ones with suppress at least, so it's easier to help you cap. We have the mirror wand that Baron made. We've got mirror gloves that Baron and I made, and then the mirror chest, which gives a physical damage reduction, flat physical damage reduction, spell suppress, reduced damage from crits, and attack and spell block, since we're stacking block on this build. It's also got additional curse and max res and fizz damage taken as elemental. Helmet, same thing as before, Kitavas. I've got leech with max power charges. One thing I forgot to mention in the other video that people don't realize is that cold leech is basically the same thing as lightning leech because you still cap your leech from it. Everybody thinks that this build is only for lightning damage since Archmage gives flat lightning damage, but it also has a lot of cold damage as well. It's literally Ice Nova. Like I don't know why people think that's not a thing. So you can use cold leech or lightning leech for your helmet. Also for your gloves, if you use it on the implicit instead, you can use either of them, and it's literally the same thing. It still caps. For the ring, this is the ring that Baron, myself, and Maverick made. It's a plus endurance, plus power, and spell damage for power with Delve mana mod on the implicit or on the prefix, chosen mana, and then mana regen, chaos res, and cast speed. So I absolutely love this ring. This is probably one of my favorite crafts that I've done in a while. We were kind of going dry on hitting the power charge, but then one day I just started again. I rolled about 3 beasts. I hit the power charge, and then I rolled about 4 more, and I hit the spell damage for power on the right mod. So I was really happy with the outcome of this ring. I think it's really cool. Sushi has literally the same ring, but his has multi instead of the endurance charge. I really like the endurance charge because 2 endurance charge gives you 20% reduction from crits, and then it also gives you flat physical damage reduction and elemental damage reduction. So I like this one for my build variant with Ralakesh, Badge of the Brotherhood, and Svalinn. But if you're going for more damage, I would definitely go with Sushi's because, you know, you get, what is that, 40 multi total? Or even more, 48 multi, I think. He probably has the crit, or no, yeah, it's probably 40 multi. Or 50 multi. Anyways, it's more multi than this. So definitely go that variant if you want more damage, but if you want a little bit more tank, I would go with ours because it's the extra endurance char gives a lot of tankiness, which is really, really nice. So this is the POB for the build. As you can see, I'm going to turn this bait off, disable EHP gain on block and suppress. A lot of people run that, but I think it's kind of bait. We're at like 2.1 EHP, 2.1 mil EHP, 91k Fizz max hit, 450 LE, and 146 chaos. And that's to our max res due to our 8 endurance charges. And yeah, it's a super tanky build compared to the other variant. The max hits are insanely high. Fizz hit is pretty high. I still wish I could get it higher. Damage is still good at 242 mil. Like, it's still absolutely dumpsters, Ubers, and every content in the game. I don't think you can single phase a lot of the Ubers, but if you really wanted to do that, then you would probably just have a wand swap, and you would be able to wand swap and probably your flasks. Like, you wouldn't go for the 90 all res. Tree is about the same. The only difference that we have is now we've got a voices. You can use a 1 or 3 passive. It's literally 1 point different, so there's not a whole lot different in that. And then we're also using an inevitable judgment, which gives you this here from the Templar Mastery that crits ignore enemy resist, so we don't have to think about any sort of penetration or curses for that, which is really nice. I do have a Megalomaniac here. This can be swapped out for a multi-jewel. It can be just removed completely, and you can save 3 nodes and use them elsewhere by moving that jewel up to your voices spot. But this is really nice. I took Blessed for Chaos Res, max life, max mana. And then I've got 2 block nodes. And honestly, like, you can find a lot of good ones if you just search up a bunch of the mods and find 3 of them that work for you. Anything with block, anything with suppress if you need suppress, or, you know, Blessed. I don't really know. Maybe some mana mods, there might be something like that. But I would basically just look up, you know, Blessed, and then try to look down the line of Megalomaniacs and find if there's anything nice that you want with one of the mods that you need. We are able to suppress cap, but we do need 3 tattoos to do so. So it's not too bad, but you know, it is a little bit of struggle to hit the suppress cap. As you can see, our dex and int are very low. Int could be even lower if I needed to tattoo more to get more chaos res, which I don't right now. But if you did need to, you have the int available with this wand. This is Baron's wand that they made. It's on an imbued wand base, so it's only 188 int requirement. Some of them require a little bit more, but if you need that crit reduction, which I don't on mine because I've got a spell block and reduce critical damage, extra damage from critical strikes on mine, so I don't need it. But if you don't have that on your shield, you can tattoo like 4 times because I think they're 5% each, and you can get the extra 20% you need after having the 8 endurance charges that give you 10% each. So then you can be crit immune, which is insanely nice for a lot of those T17 maps. You can completely ignore the mod where they have increased crit multi and crit strike chance. But yeah, I mean, the rest of the tree is pretty similar. The tree itself is pretty similar. The only thing we added was a few more jewels. So we've got Rational Doctrine, which gives you an insane amount of damage. If we remove the Profane Ground here, you can see it takes us from 26.2 to 30.2 and takes us from 89% crit to 99.7% crit, which is quite a bit. The only other things you could change is maybe getting a little bit of crit strike chance on the jewels to get your crit completely capped, but I don't care enough to do that. We dropped Purity of Elements, so we're now running Storm Shroud to get ailment immunity, and with that we're using the, where is it here? Avoid being shocked on our flask to have shock immunity. Shock immunity gives us freeze and ignite immunity. This is the Impossible Escape we're using with Imbalanced Guard, and that we're taking these 2 nodes on to get 3% max res. You can also take this node if you have a point available to get 5% double damage, which actually gives a good amount of damage for you. And then the rest of the trees are pretty similar, aside from grabbing some block nodes that we didn't have before because we're obviously going block. And we've moved the Militant Faith over to this spot here. Actually, I might have Might have had it here before, I don't remember. For the gems, I think the gems are about the same. A couple things that have changed is we've moved our Sigil of Power and Frost Shield into a shield because that is triggered now by the shield. Assassin's Mark is a self-cast, so you do have to cast that on bosses. I don't have to worry about generating power charges anymore, so it would be nice to be able to drop this, but it is still like a significant amount of damage. Frostblink, we've just got a 3-link now in the weapon for Frostblink, Spell Echo, faster casting. In our helmet, we actually now have Enfeeble, because Enfeeble gives you a huge amount of EHP. As you can see, it can give you like almost 100k Ellie max hit, 20k Fizz max hit, and for us it's like 600k EHP. So Enfeeble was, I think, a really good addition to the build. We're still using Punishment, and we're using Assassin's Mark. If you were to drop anything, I mean, it's completely up to you. Assassin's Mark would be nice to drop because you don't have to cast it, but realistically, you only really use it on big bosses or uniques or rares that are dying slower. Most of them don't anyway because you still have 242 mil damage. It's quite a bit, and without it, I mean, you still have 183 mil, which is like a good amount of damage anyway. For Ice Nova, we are running these 6 gems. I don't know if these are the same as before, so take a look. I think the only one different here is we're using Peacock now, which gives you a huge amount of damage since this is 4% more damage for power charge. And then in our gloves, we've got Wrath, Eternal Blessing, Clarity, and Arrogance. And then the same 4-link Automation, Arcane Cloak, more duration, and Arcane Surge. So yeah, overall, like, not a whole lot has changed in the build. Obviously, there is a whole lot, and it is a little bit slower. But once you have your Haunted modifier going, and once you're, have all your buffs going, it's not too bad. It is a tankier variant. It's meant to be able to tank almost anything. The only thing that I have been dying to is like Uber Shape or Slam. That is the one thing, because you have 0 block mitigation. You can't avoid it at all. So it is pretty hard to tank that. And I know there are builds that can do it, but yeah, it's not mine. Anyways, I hope you guys like the variant of this build. I have been sticking around with it because it's just so tanky, and I just don't have to think about the game. But at the same time, it depends really what you want in a build. If you want to go tanky, I would go this for sure. If you want to go more DPS, go the old build that I posted. Or Sushi also has another POB, I think it's on his channel, of a higher damage variant with 2 wands. It's really up to you what you want to do. But personally, I really enjoy the whole tankiness version of this build. I'm going to try to add another POB to the description with a little bit lower budget version of the build. But when I say lower budget, I'm talking 1 to 2 mirrors rather than, I think my build's like 7 or 8 mirrors now. But definitely, this is possible on a lower budget, but at minimum, I would say to get a mage butt. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but it's going to make the build feel like 10 times better than without. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed watching. This might be one of my last videos for the league. I'm probably getting over it pretty soon, but I really enjoyed this build, and to be honest, I'll probably play it next league.